Hey, how's it going everyone? It's your boy Wags here, and I'm bringing you some helpful tips for you to survive your first few days in the new zombie survival game, HumanitZ. All I ask is that if you learn something or the video helps you in any way, I'd really appreciate it if you drop me a like or even a comment, as I do try my best to respond to everyone. I should also be dropping some gameplay for the game in a few days, so if that's something you might be interested in, feel free to click the subscribe button. And with all that being said, let's start. Even with a pretty large backpack, your inventory spaces are still fairly limited, and chances are you'll quickly find yourself stocked up on random goodies with no knowledge of what the half of it even does. I'd suggest keeping some food and water on you at all times, even dirty water, since if you have some purifying tablets, you can go into your inventory crafting menu and purify the water. In addition to this, you should also carry at least a 5 stack of rags. You can easily craft these by finding any shirt and ripping it up by again using the crafting menu. You can also use fiber to do this, but we'll get into that in a second. Essentially, keep an eye on your inventory, as you'll need every possible slot and you don't want extra items taking up space that you need. You can store extra items in any containers in the houses you loot, or if you have a vehicle, and depending on what type it is, you'll get access to different sized trunks to store your items as well. That is until later, when you can craft yourself some actual storage containers. Another thing to pay attention to that I feel is tied to this is the amount of equipment you're allowed to have equipped. Now when I say equipped, I'm talking about this hotbar you have, not what you can carry in your backpack. So at max, you can equip in your hotbar 2 large size weapons, 1 sidearm, 1 smaller size weapon or tool, and a quick slot item. The reason I say pay attention to this is because, for example, if you're holding a weapon or tool in your hands and you have no free slots for it anywhere else, if you switch to another hotbar item, you'll end up dropping the item you were holding in the first place. So I'd suggest always having a free hand, that way you can grab and put away items with relative ease. When you're first starting out, combat and movement can take a while to get used to. The biggest advice I can give when it comes to fighting large hordes of zombies, or Zeeks as the game calls them, is to just take your time and keep backing up as you land your hits. Hitting a Zeke will put it into a stun lock that will only last about half a second before it lunges at you again. The other thing to be aware of is your movement, like what stance you're in and what position you're facing. Your character will always face the direction of your cursor. Make sure to remember this, because I had a few moments where I was trying to sprint away, but because of where my cursor was, my character was simply just walking backwards, and I couldn't run away from any Zeeks that were chasing me. When you're fighting Zeeks, you also want to be aware of your character's stamina. Swinging a melee weapon too often will leave you exhausted in the middle of a fight. You'll go to swing again, and instead you'll just stand there aimlessly while a Zeke takes a whack at you. You can also do a grapple attack by clicking the middle mouse button. Again, pay attention, because if any other Zeeks are near you, you might just be looking at a game over screen very soon. There are many different variants of Zeeks, such as runners, radioactive, and bigger behemoth-like ones as well, so make sure you have a good sense of combat and movement before working your way into the cities. That, or have a crap ton of guns and ammo. One of the first few things you'll probably be looking to do is build a fire, since it's not only needed to cook your food, but it's the best way to stay warm at night and during rain or snowy weather. Down in the left-hand corner next to all your stats, you have a temperature gauge. When it's white, your temp is normal, but if it turns blue, your character is starting to get chilly and is at risk of developing a cold and coughing, which will in turn attract more Zeeks. The best way to combat these cold temperatures is to obviously build a fire, and you can do this one of 2 ways. 1, you can light an existing fireplace inside a house using matches or a drill kit. Or 2, you can find the necessary resources to build your own campfire. Here's how to do both. For a drill kit, you're going to need 3 sticks and 2 fibers, and you'll get these by cutting down these smaller bushes you find scattered around the map. They'll drop sticks, fiber, and sometimes even bait. This is also where you'll find the fiber for crafting rags like I was talking about earlier. Once you have the correct amount of items, open up the crafting tab in your inventory and craft yourself a drill kit. Once it's crafted, it'll immediately appear in your inventory. You can then take this to any existing fire pit and hold the interact button to light it. This also works with matches. If you're looking to build your own fire, however, you'll need 2 wood, 4 stones, and 2 sticks. You already know how to get sticks from bushes, and you can find rocks by just walking around grassy areas. Although I do want to note, I walked around the woods for like 30 minutes and couldn't find a single rock until I started looking in more residential areas like people's backyards and surrounding their homes, so keep that in mind. And finally, for wood, you're going to need to cut down a tree, and for that, you'll need an axe. If you already have one, awesome. If you don't, you can craft an improvised one with 2 stones and 5 sticks using your inventory crafting menu. Once you have the axe, walk up to the tree and swing a few times. Eventually the tree will turn into a few logs, and from there you can use the axe one more time to turn the logs into wood. Now here's the thing, you won't find a campfire in your inventory crafting menu because this is just meant for quick, on-the-fly throwing things together. However, if you click B, you'll open up the official build and crafting menu. As you can see, there's our campfire, along with a bunch of other grayed out builds. And the reason they're grayed out and we can't build them is because we don't have a hammer equipped. Now it doesn't matter if you have a hammer in your inventory, it needs to be in your character's actual hands. So once you're holding a hammer, you'll get access to the rest of the build menu. You'll also be able to see all the materials you need for each build. So going back to the fire, if we go to place it down, for the longest time I thought we just weren't allowed to place anything indoors. I mean, that makes sense to me kinda. Turns out it's just because of the height difference of the house. So if you hold shift and use the scroll wheel of your mouse, you can actually raise the campfire up or down to place it correctly. Once it's placed, keep your build menu open, and when facing your build, click F to add the resources. Once the campfire is completely built, like before, you can use a drill kit or matches to light it. Once you have a lit fire in front of you, you can now open it like any other inventory space, but instead of dropping your items in, it acts more like a crafting menu. So as you can see, this is what you can craft with a fire as long as you have the right resources. You can purify dirty water and cook different types of raw meat. Also, if you want to chill, holding Z brings up the emote wheel so you can sit next to your fire and, just get real cozy. Besides looting and getting yourself some food, you'll most likely be looking to get a vehicle running. There are drivable vehicles all over the map in various places, and depending on where you spawn, like if you choose the beginner area, there will most likely be a car not even 20 feet from you. You can tell the difference between a drivable car and a scrapped car because one will look all rusted out and bare, while the other will look generally new and clean. You can also tell by walking up to the hood and interacting with it to inspect what parts it needs to be repaired. Most likely, you'll need a few. In order to get any car running, you're going to need 4, maybe even 5 things. You're going to need a fan belt, a fuel pump, a battery, and a starter. And the 5th thing, maybe some gasoline if it's empty. Once you have all these parts installed, you'll be able to jump into your own vehicle and start mowing down some Zeeks. Although, just remember, everything you crash into, including Zeeks, will slowly wear down your vehicle condition and the parts you have installed. There are repair kits that you can find around, and you can take these up to the engine, click repair, and increase your vehicle's quality a little, giving it a tiny bit more life before you inevitably total it. You can also press T for headlights and H to honk your horn. From the moment you spawn in, you'll have a note in your inventory that talks about how someone was previously receiving airdrops of special goods to the area. However, once the radio tower went down, the airdrop stopped coming. If you open your map, the radio tower can be seen as this big green dot, and if you don't have a vehicle like we talked about, it's a pretty long walk. You'll need to re-establish connection with the radio tower by installing it with some parts, kind of the same way you did with the car. And if you're watching this before you've even made it to the radio tower, you might want to make note of these specific items. In order to repair the radio tower, you'll need a car battery, electronics, electrical cable, and a radio receiver. The first 3 items I was able to find pretty easy just by looting houses and vehicles, but the radio receiver took a little more searching. Turns out you can find one pretty fast if you come across a music store. Just mosey on into the back and there you have yourself a radio receiver. Also, here's the location for the music store I visited if anyone is having trouble finding one. It's pretty close to the radio tower even. Finally, once you have all 4 components, head back to the tower, throw them all inside, and click Activate. Nothing will happen right away, but in the next few hours or maybe even the next day, you'll actually be able to hear a helicopter flying above you. If you wait until the helicopter sound disappears and you check your map, there'll be a red dot where the airdrop landed. Now, it's just up to you to get there. Before I wrap up the video, here's just some extra information I'm going to run through real quick that I thought deserved some attention, but also didn't fit into its own category. Dying isn't actually the end of the game. You can choose to respawn again at any of the original spawn points, and when you do respawn, you keep your clothes, everything in your hotbar, and your pockets. Your backpack will drop where you died, full of all your stuff, and you'll have to make the long journey all the way back if you want to retrieve it, along with your precious items. You can use duct tape to partially repair any melee weapon you currently have equipped in your hand. Same goes with guns, except you need a gun repair kit instead. You always have a flashlight on you, and this can be turned on with T. Once you turn it on, you'll get this small battery icon here at the bottom of your screen. This represents your flashlight's battery, and you fill it back up with, you guessed it, batteries. Just click on a battery when it's in your inventory and fill it back up. And lastly, it's pretty easy sometimes to overlook when you level up, so occasionally check your skills menu to see if you have any free points available to spend. One I would recommend taking if you're trying to sneak around is lockpicking. With a lockpick in your inventory, instead of pressing interact on a door, hold it instead, and you'll be tasked with a pretty easy lockpicking screen. On the other hand, you can also just carry around a crowbar and just break the door open instead. Your call. Anyways, this was a series of tips to help you survive your first few days in the brutal world that is HumanitZ. Let me know down below how you're enjoying the game so far. Please do remember that it is early access, so I'm sure we have a lot more coming down the road. So far the game has very positive reviews on Steam, and it seems the community is very eager to see what's coming next. With all that said, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you found the content helpful, entertaining, or engaging in any way. Thank you so much for dropping in, and I will see you all on the next one.